Over the last couple of years, Star Citizen has shipped the first version of Planet technology. This included a comprehensive package of tools fit to create thousands of planets with differing biomes, weather, geology, and atmospheric composition. We all know by now that CIG is iterative, and since then the technology has progressed, offering new possibilities. I'm going to show you why Star Citizen has such amazing planets, what we know is in the works for their future, and when we might see it. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. And thanks to my newest Patreon members, Brian Peterson and Cody Gibson. The Star Citizen project has been in development for quite a while, but it wasn't always planned to have these vast spaces for exploration. Procedural planetary generation combined with actual physically placed landing zones weren't part of the game until their unveiling to the public in 2016. Two years later, Alpha 3.0 brought the first landing zone and a handful of moons. Since then, the game has grown to include 4 planets, all including their own landing zones, over a dozen biomes and moons, and points of interest like derelicts, outposts, military installations, and caves. The landing zones they've created have been coming consistently at about one new major landing zone every year since 2018. These landing zones have pulled from 2 of the major architectural styles in Star Citizen, and have necessitated a lot of new art and the creation of new tools and processes. Each landing zone has arrived with increased polish, a distinct change in style and layout, and increasing complexity and ambition. Though while they do succeed as impressive central locations offering differing experiences, they don't quite live up to their lore in my opinion, and I'll be excited to see how they update the locations more in the future to represent their backstories. Outside of these landing zones, developers have created a plethora of tools that can be used to paint and sculpt planets before filling them with interesting things. Each planet is able to be painted with a brush that follows a very simple temperature and humidity map, with each side of the map representing some function of wet bulb temperature. Environment artists can determine all of the extremes of a planet and then determine the materials that occur at any combination of those extremes, planet-wide. This system can thus easily blend biomes together in believable ways and quickly cover a planet in believable assets created by the artists. This represents a philosophy that Star Citizen uses in planetary creation called procedural generation hand assistance. It allows the tools to do the heavy lifting, while the devs can come in and make fancy handcrafted areas later. We'll talk more about those areas later in this video, but first, we'll look at another tool that follows this same development process. The Height Map Editor is a tool that allows CIG to easily change not just the different geological features on a planet, but also the way they meld together. As each block of custom geology is created by an artist, it is added to a library which allows all kinds of randomization when creating the various areas of a planet. This allows for quick and high-quality additions to the planet that avoid repetition while saving time. It's not perfect, but it works very well, and it ties into the humidity and temperature map we looked at earlier, dynamically covering high-altitude dry mountains in snow and the lower altitude area down the slope with a chilled forest. Both of these tools are just an example of what CIG has been creating over the last several years to hopefully have an easier time making these things in the long term, and they only barely touch on the various aspects of these planets. There is also atmospheric composition. This forgotten aspect of the game dictates the way light refracts through the atmosphere, creating different colors and effects. The survivability of planets can also be affected by this, with very hot and very cold areas requiring additional protection, and even gas giants featuring ship-crushing pressure that will damage your ship and eventually kill you as you descend into their depths. Those same ships actually perform quite differently depending on the atmosphere itself, making for different experiences flying around different planets and moons. And then there are also those bespoke locations I mentioned, outposts, and other interesting locations you could visit on these planets. But instead of getting further into the depth of what makes up these planets, let's look at how CIG is actually going to make these planets even better in the future. There is no better way to communicate the age of land than through the apparent effects of water in motion. Currently, the terrain modification tool can be used by devs to create rivers with logical flow downhill using a half-circle function that looks for the lowest point in comparison to the current water level. This was first shown at the beginning of 2021 while we were learning about how this tool can be used to quickly and easily create locations for outposts with the option of both natural and man-made visuals. The rivers will likely be an addition added retrospectively to Stanton planets, specifically Microtech. It is also linked to basins that we haven't seen, but will likely include the buoyancy previously added to the game, and the surprising and mysterious boat parameters due in the future. And while rivers and basins are scheduled to complete their current work at the end of 2020, this does not necessarily mean they will follow shortly after. It may only be preparatory work. An interesting link to rivers that I theorized back when the tool was first revealed was that they may allow for flowing lava to also be added to the game. It has since been confirmed that river tech will be modified and tuned to produce impressive lava rivers and lakes. This will start when river tech is done and will hopefully be finished in time for the next star system, Pyro. Surprisingly, this tool is closely related to the road creation tool, which will also improve the planetary experience and likely help with the next feature, outpost locations. The new settlement locations that we've been receiving updates on since last summer are hopefully due to be added in the game in 2022. These village-like locations capitalize on the colonialism architectural style of the early space expansionist era of human history. These settlements will feature living, working, and hopefully actually functioning AI going about their days on the ground. They will feature several different types of optional modules such as living quarters, garages, and restrooms. There will also be many different types of machinery and props that we have seen in the past, which at some point appear to have functionality planned. These outposts will come in many different variations, including abandoned, mining-centric, and research-centric, to name a few. I don't think they will feature much in terms of interactivity or missions at launch, but I do expect some of the seedier and harder to come by missions and items will be found in places like these off the beaten path. Bigger than the current outposts, but smaller than larger cities, these will act as a great smaller location on the outer rim of civilization and in lesser populated systems, for the players that prefer less people around. A long time ago, back when Around the Verse was still a thing, we saw some very cool shots from possible canyons on Daymar. This was something that has been in and out of the realm of possibility in the game until that moment, and since then we've been waiting to see canyons in the game that go a step further than Daymar's current offering. In the meantime, we've been seeing some serious improvements in the R&D that they are doing on the feature. And while it seems to have been put down for some time, it appears from this recent video that we may be getting better canyons at future locations soon. And that's not all for land features, we've also seen some very cool rock arches that will hopefully be used to create some awesome racing locations in the future. I imagine both of these land features will likely be introduced with the Pyro system for the first time. Sticking with the theme of points of interest, Derelicts are a big piece of gameplay that will soon be getting an update that makes them much more interesting. While not much is known yet, the update given on the new Derelicts points to in-game puzzles and challenges both environmental and AI-driven. These wrecks will be placed in space and all over planetary surfaces, offering differing challenges for unique gameplay. These puzzles could include the door-breaching mechanics we've seen in the works, or possibly the cutting tool scheduled for next year. We will also definitely see the use of laser trip mines for added danger, and of course, the loot system can now be tied in to offer rewards, no matter how anticlimactic. Now, while those derelicts may be great for quick puzzles, they also may be commandeered as living areas for NPCs. We've seen this several times in the past, and now that these locations are becoming a focus, these random buildings, bars, ship camps, and Jav towns may actually begin to dot the surfaces of the planets we fly over. These locations and many of the locations we talk about in this video are dependent on the new Montreal locations team. They've completed their work on the hospitals and will likely now work on some of the features we are discussing today, though we have no real indication as to when derelict locations are coming to the game, and the puzzles won't be here for some time. Another relatively small addition coming to Planet soon is Reactive Vegetation. This includes the bending of reactive grass and plants that has been in R&D lately, which will improve the experience of moving around these detailed environments. It also includes destructible environments, which will allow for individual types of foliage to be destroyed, such as trees, and for a database to track the destruction of full environments. In certain parts of the verse, you may encounter a sandstorm, a dust storm, or even a snowstorm in your travels. The weather of Star Citizen has begun to affect survival, visibility, and ship flights in the past couple of years, and there's a very good chance more will be coming. While the team has mentioned several upcoming various improvements to the weather system, we've also seen the testing with things like lightning effects and heavier fog, and who doesn't want to see rain in ArcCorp? And in the distant future, these precipitation systems could be tied more closely to the river and basin system to change biomes over time. We've also seen discussion of how the weather of planets may change based on the orbital position of the planet. While pretty far out, it is something that would need to be considered given the nature of the planetary tech and the fact that planets will be orbiting these stars. We know the intensity of these storms will increase, they will grow to encompass other forms and effects, and they may even change over time. But we've also seen that these storms can cause a buildup of materials on our bases and vehicles over time as well. This will tie into the wear and tear system already in the game that adds material to your ship as it spends more time in a specific environment. There are also the clouds. Volumetric clouds have only been on planets since the most recent update, 3.14. They're also only on one planet, the gas giant Crusader. But at some point, these clouds will be used on all planets, changing our planetary approach forever, and adding a new, more convincing layer to the weather system. Humans are not alone in the Star Citizen universe. There are other intelligent forms of life, some of whom are more advanced than us, but others are more primitive. These aliens, or Fauna as the progress tracker refers to them, are going to be a big addition to planetary surfaces that will provide new sources of tourism, productivity, or even combat. These will range from friendly to hostile in the size of a volleyball to massive space whale size. We don't know a huge amount of details about these creatures, but a few of them are already done in terms of AI and art, so you may see these creatures sooner than you think. In addition to all of this, there are still all the landing zone improvements to look forward to, fire propagation and the way it could interact with environments, new cave types that have been mentioned in the past, and new biomes like jungles, terrestrial moons, and sandy deserts. Even though planetary tech has reached maturity, there is still so much more to come in the near and distant future. I actually couldn't cover everything in this video. The beauty of following this game's development is that there are so many teams working, there's always something new to learn. And if you'd like to learn more about this game with the simplest explanations, consider subscribing to this channel. I'll also provide you with cinematics, update reviews, and more, including ship giveaways. And if you'd like to get a chance to get into my big ship giveaway, make sure to go back in this video and find the secret code that I've put in there somewhere. And then hit the giveaway link in the video description and put it into one of the secret code categories. And if you want even more chances to win maybe a Constellation Taurus, head over to my Twitch channel and check out the ongoing giveaway there. I'd also like to take a moment to point you towards my Discord server, The Garden, where we discuss these topics in much greater detail and different aspects of Star Citizen, while also playing plenty of games together. It's a highly customizable place where you can choose the channels and details you want to see, and you can always find the newest video and the discussion on it. I hope you decide to join, and I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks to my top supporters TK, Ken Garcia, Valiant15, The Alpaca, Holston Coop, The Huntress, Dasek, Guilty Conscious, Extreme Tuber 7, El Gordo, Jarzi, Niku, Jin, Bilal Eliasem, and Brian Peterson.